What's up, everybody?
What up, what up?
What's going on?
I feel like you can always tell which is the second episode that was done in a day. Because
we're not as motivated with the hellos.
No, I mean, we're still motivated, but I'm not hyper and crazy.
That's true.
Goes to show you that I am I guess people would say I'm a morning person. I don't consider myself a morning person, but
I am definitely not a morning person.
Never in my life.
I'm an all day person because I'm like this as soon as I wake up and until I pass out.
Brian's on all the time,
except like in the middle. Maybe I'm a morning and night person because in the middle of the day I'm like this. I'm like, hey, how's it going?
I need my
middle of the day. If you're at work and stuff like that, you're just trying to get through that. So I can see how you're. I mean, I'm sure you're still like a delightful person. It's just not as hyper as you would be if you were before work or after work. It makes sense.
I think that's right. Yeah, I'm not at work person. Even though I love my job.
Most people aren't, exactly. Regardless of loving your job, it's still a job, and that's what makes it feel that way.
Yeah.
That's what makes it a chore.
Find a job. What is it? Find a job that you love and you'll never work a day in your life. And I'm just like, I really love my job, but I'm still working, guys. I still got to wake up and go to the office and sit down and do tasks. So
I get there's a more altruistic sentiment behind that statement, but unfortunately, it still feels like work.
Yeah, exactly. I am pretty happy, though. I'm getting to work on an all-Canadian playlist right now, which is pretty fun. I do enjoy doing all-Canadian stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah, you got some pretty dope stuff going on, too. You had a little feature as well?
Yeah. I was featured recently. If you guys want to check that out, we posted it on the Franklin Armstrong Facebook, so you can go back. This is probably going to be a few months back at this point for you guys, but so check it out. Go on to the Franklin Armstrong Facebook page, Franklin Armstrong DOTCOM, and just scroll through. You'll see us. We're there. We got all our stuff, and there's a feature of Doc Holliday at work. I'm not going to tell you where I work because you should find it. That's go onto the page and you'll see, because there's a big picture of me and a whole article about me.
It's a very lazy scavenger hunt.
Yeah, it's a super lazy scavenger hunt because it's there. I'm telling you where to get it, and then you can stalk me. And then if you're an artist or a musician, you'll probably want to stalk me because I might be able to get your music onto playlists, but that's a whole other
story. There you go.
Only if it's good, though, and let's be honest. I mean, it's not about, like, I might love your music, but it also has to fit with the type of playlist that I'm building for companies. So, But in any case, that was some fun chit-chat. On to the next one. I hope everyone's doing well. And let me introduce the team to my left and in the studio.
Dave of Squared Idea, a co-writer of Trinity, also doing the coloring of it. Going to give a shout out to Chris Nicholson and Mike Wilcox, the founders of Squared Idea. If you have an idea and you need help getting it out there, please contact us.
I actually do have an idea. I do. I actually have a couple too. Yeah, you have a couple too. Yeah, I have an idea for a character that I want to create, so I have to work on that because I'm trying to. I have to build the world first.
That is literally why we're here. Yeah. Literally, if you need guidance, that's why you're supposed to call.
Yeah,
and you don't even have to call. I'm here every 2 weeks.
I know.
Just talk.
I want to do some world.
Let's
building.
open up.
I want to do some world. We'll do it after.
All right. You know what? I'll do a live pitch of my character's attributes. I don't really have a backstory or anything though.
You want to do that now, or you want to do it after?
Yeah.
No, do it right now. Cool. This is improv. This is good.
Just the character attributes, nothing else. Name: Jericho Falls.
Okay.
Alias or aliases: Echo, Nightfall, Stormbringer. Powers and abilities: enhanced metabolic functions, much like Captain America. Weapons expert, master in all forms of martial arts, and master tactician.
Not bad.
Jericho Falls.
I actually really like the name.
Yeah, that's a dope name.
Because to be honest, that's actually one of the. It's really easy to think of like what would make a character cool. Like you know, you're like, okay, well, this guy could do this. Obviously, like, oh, he could fly. Well, that's obviously cool.
Once you have the name, I feel like the rest kind of falls into place.
Because then it gives a personality. Usually a name gives a background. Or
that's the thing. For my character, I have the name, but I have no idea what I want to do with the name. So his full name is William Magnus III.
Very chic.
He's called Billy Magoo.
How does one get from one to the next?
Well,
Bill Williams, obviously. Bro.
No, but that's it. Because his name is William Magnus III, but they call him Billy Magoo. His grandfather was Wild Willie, who was William Magnus I, and his dad is William Magnus II. And one of the ideas I have in my mind is that I kind of want the idea to be that you never know what era they're in. Ooh. So there is like technology, but there's also like weird segments where there's not technology.
So like a Westworld type, like ambiance. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
in the sense
Like-
of the visual, not in the sense of the concept.
Yeah.
Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow.
Yeah,
there you
yeah. But there is a Western aspect to it because I mean, when your grandfather's named Wild Willie,
I feel like that's
weird.
coming back actually.
Western.
Western.
I
I
mean, Westworld
feel
probably definitely helped with it.
Yeah, but like in general, I feel like that concept is coming back.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, but one of the things that I probably don't want to say it because if I do make it, it will be an interesting aspect of the story. But yeah. Anyways, that was fun. That
was very impromptu.
That's our elevator pitch for our own ideas that we are.
I'll take them under advisement. I'll bring them to the heads.
There you go. There you go. But yeah, so the Squared Idea does stuff like that. So if you guys are interested, hit them up, squared-idea.com. You can hit up Chris, Mike,
Dave.
Well, I wanted you to say your own name because you're here.
Well, that's because I wasn't sure. I was like, wait,
How do I
you're
forget?
pointing at me, so I'm like, oh.
I do the show with you every 2 weeks.
Yeah, but
I didn't forget
sometimes
who
you say
are.
my name, sometimes you don't. When
That's
it's
true.
the official intro, it's never. But then you're like Dave and Chris.
Yeah, that's fair. That's on me. Okay, sorry about that.
We had to
and then
finger
you had,
snaps now.
You had yeah. And then there's the new guy whose name I feel bad.
Mike Farino.
Farino.
We can't name the Mikes anymore, so it's Wilcox and Farino.
Yeah, I call it because that's it. In my head, I was like, his name starts with F, but I couldn't remember Farino. Yeah, his story I was saying recently sounds super cool too.
We also have Ryan Patry, who's going to be he's another writer that we have on.
Oh, cool.
He's on. He has a lot of ideas. He's just at the commencement stage.
Okay.
Of his ideas. Oh, we just got an artist, and I can't remember his name at the moment. It's James something, but I can't remember his last name. But
Building
anyways,
the team.
he's a guy from New York, though. So that if anyone's like hearing this and from far, we work at a distance as
That's
well.
awesome.
So like, that's a great segue. Thank you so much.
That's awesome. And then Tobi, repping out of the T dot. Anything you want to tell the people?
Not more than usual. Follow me on Instagram at that fit dude.
And then for the intro,
THAT fit dude. Oh, that's true. I did make the intro to this
awesome
show. You can find it on SoundCloud under the name Abstract AB-STRAQ.
And you can license the beat. So as much as we love it as our intro, if you are an artist who's looking to, as I mentioned, where I work, it is a type of beat that we would like for certain playlists. It just, if someone wanted to rap over it and make a whole production of it, there you go. So those are some options. And I'm Brian Holiday. You can find me on Instagram at Brian Holiday, HOLIDAE. And then this is the show. This week we are going to be discussing the one, the only Saga. This Volume 1, written by Brian K.Vaughan, art by Fiona Staples, and if I'm not mistaken, there's also lettering by someone named Steven something. I always feel like I forget his name, and I didn't write it down, so that's my bad, and I do apologize to that.
And he's not actually credited on the cover.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, because I saw it online somewhere, but I don't... on the issues that I've read, I've never seen...
Lettering by Eric Stevenson.
His last name.
Sorry. That's not true. Eric Stevenson is the coordinator of whatever.
Yeah.
But lettering and design is by Phonographics. I guess it's a company.
Oh, that's weird, because I saw it originally, it showed me a name. In any case.
Yeah.
There you go. So we're going to be doing our elevator pitch. I'll read to you guys the original that was written on the back of the Volume 1, if I'm not mistaken, for Saga. This one is coming from Image. From New York Times bestselling writer Brian K.Vaughan, Why the Last Man, Ex Machina, and critically acclaimed artist Fiona Staples, who worked on Mystery Society and North 40, Saga is the sweeping tale of a young family fighting to find their place in the world. When two soldiers from opposite sides of a never-ending galactic war fall in love, they risk everything to bring a fragile new life into a dangerous old universe. Fantasy and science fiction are wed like never before in a sexy, subversive drama for adults. This specially priced volume collects the first arc of the smash hit series The Onion AV Club calls the emotional epic Hollywood wishes it could make. Ooh. So yeah, that's a pretty... I mean, it even says this specially priced volume, so you definitely know it's off of the first volume right there. But yeah, I mean, elevator pitch, and I say this, and I tried my best to think of another way of saying it, but it's like Star Wars meets like Lord of the Rings style. That's what a lot of people say, and I really wanted to try and think of something else, but essentially you'd be saying fantasy meets science fiction, which is what they wrote.
Right. And I would, instead of Lord of the Rings, we can kind of bring it down a little bit. Oh, man. Actually, maybe not. I was going to say Game of Thrones, but it's actually definitely more Lord of the Rings
Yeah,
than Game of
because
Thrones
there's still
in terms of characters.
Yeah, there's still like, I mean, there's a bit of magic in Game of Thrones, but there's still like,
Right.
I feel like there's a whole side of people who literally just live in the world of magic in this one.
Yeah.
I mean, some people also say it's space opera meets fantasy. But like all of those are, it's hard to like, if I was to do the elevator pitch, I'd probably do it as this, because this is one of the things I love about these types of stories is I try to explain to people that the story itself is to the backdrop of these things. So I would tell the person, let's say Star Wars meets fantasy, but my core story isn't necessarily about that. I'm taking a
and then on top of that, Saga is like Star Wars, but unfilmable.
Yeah.
Because of so many fantastical elements in it.
Yeah, exactly.
I think right now it's probably not. We're not there technology wise to film a movie like this and do it justice. No, I don't think so.
I would say the way I would probably pitch it to people is it's Romeo and Juliet set to the backdrop of a Star Wars and Lord of the Rings combined universe. That's how I would pitch it.
True, but it's like Romeo and Juliet are grown-ups here.
Yeah, exactly.
And they didn't commit suicide. So, and they're on the run from the two sides, both families that are chasing after them.
Because this is what would happen if they actually ended up together and they were wanting to move forward. Sorry, go ahead, Dave.
Actually, this is our elevator pitch.
Yeah.
Actually.
What I was actually going to say, which I feel like you guys have really like taking the wind out of my sails here. It definitely because I agree with everything you're saying. That's why and I was going to say that it's Star Wars with a bit more emphasis on like Jedi side of things, being like a bit more magical, meets Romeo and Juliet, but they don't kill each other, and instead of it being family oriented, it's slave versus non-slave oriented. That's how I got out of it.
Okay, like
because that's like that's the whole war aspect of it, because it's really. They claim that the Moonies are like I feel, at least with, and we'll get into it a bit more when we do our review. I feel like the Moonies are like slaves to land.
Oh, so I see what Tobi, what you were saying about Game of Thrones. I get what you're saying then, because that's Tobi. Dave is making the point. It's kind of like the slave aspect and how the slaves are revolting because they're okay. So I see. Yeah, so there are Game of Thrones elements in there. But it's not. If I'm going to say Game of Thrones, I don't think Game of Thrones is as fantastical as Lord of the Rings is.
Yeah. So it's like a tiny portion of that. But even in Lord of the Rings, that is what's happening. The people are sort of revolting against tyranny.
Oh, true.
So it's still so I can kind of keep Game of Thrones out of it at this point. I think, yeah.
Okay, but yeah, guys, that's the elevator pitch. I mean, if anything, Saga is one of those ones. And once again, like I've said before, you can definitely tell the ones we like versus the ones we dislike, because with this one, we all gave it very positive. Like I didn't say what was Disney's horrible Star Wars attempt before they bought Lucasfilms. John, the one that
John Carter.
Yeah, because if I wanted to insult it, I would say it's John Carter meets crap. But no, we say Star Wars.
How crazy you mentioned this, because last night I was literally talking about John Carter to someone.
Oh God!
And then you mentioned it today. It's like it was meant to be or something.
I apologize that I even brought it up.
I was saying how terrible it was and like trying to describe his powers, saying it really didn't have any powers, but the fact that he can just jump high because the gravity doesn't affect him as much. Anyway, it was stupid. It was a dumb movie.
I actually never watched it because
it still has a 6 out of 10 on IMDb for some reason.
It does. Anyways, you know what? We're not even going to go there. Once again,
sidetracks. This episode's called Sidetracks.
Yeah, but yeah, there you go. Saga is where it's at. If you guys are interested, we're going to be doing that full discussion in a second. But first, we start off with what we love to call Judgment Call. Dave, do you want to do the intro?
Yes. So, as we always do on the show, this is our segment, the main event of the evening is what I like to call it. It's our chance to fight for our character's right to be in the spotlight. We have two competitors and a judge. The two competitors are given 3 minutes to plead their case. Then they have we're each given 1 minute to tear down the opposition, whether or not you want to actually attack their character, themselves, do death threats. It doesn't matter at this point in time. It's all happened on the show. And then the judge will then determine who basically wins, whose character really does deserve more spotlight.
And this week the judge is Tobi. So yeah, I think Tobi's the judge, and then
Yep.
Dave and I will be the ones going into the pit.
Now, how did you want me to keep time, or are you going to use the timer on your screen?
Oh, okay, yeah, I can use the timer on my screen if you like.
Yeah, we'll be.
I think.
Actually, you know what?
What?
Because I need to be aware of it. Actually,
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
I'll
that's
let you do it.
I will do it on my end. Let's see. Okay, and I'm going to. You guys are both ready. You got your characters.
Yeah.
Yep.
And there's no penalties this week.
Oh, no penalties.
Never gonna live that down.
With that said,
He has the power. He's going mad with power already.
I think I'll let Doc go first. 3, 2, 1.
All right, folks, we are going to be doing the one, the only, Mary Marvel. Considered one of the few characters in the DC universe that no one gives a crap about. Seen as the sidekick, the lesser than, the unimportant, the toss away. I'm saying it all now because I'm trying to make sure you guys get what I'm trying to say. This woman who is powerful and incredible and has done some of the best things for DC is regularly tossed aside and considered nothing more than a joke. A cheap imitation of an imitation. She's not even the sidekick to the Captain Shazam. She's the sidekick to his sidekick. Of all the insults in the world, folks, could you think of anything less? But you know what? Here's your opportunity to give that person a chance to shine. Once again, Mary Marvel is someone who is almost as powerful as Shazam himself, but is regularly tossed aside and ignored because they just didn't actually want these characters. One of the things when they bought Shazam from Timely Comics DC, they really wanted to focus more on him, Shazam, Billy Batson, and his story than Freddy and his sister, Mary. And by doing so, they made these characters kind of a joke. They made them, kind of weak. I mean, when they revert back to their standard regular selves, they're not really all that impressive. She's just a young woman, a brunette, lives her life. She does nothing of importance. But the character has power, and there are almost no stories told about her. She's always just a secondary to whatever Marvel's doing. And that's unfortunate because Marvel is a child. She's actually a teenager. She's actually lived a bit, and she has the powers. I think, if anything, that gives you an opportunity to write some very interesting stories. You have people who have actually lived a bit and aren't just children who need to be coddled in a lot of situations. She's a teenager who was, if I'm not mistaken, I think at one point they were living on the streets. I'm trying to remember, but I unfortunately do not have that right in front of me. But yeah, they're characters who have not been given the opportunity to grow. And I say specifically Mary because Freddy, he's an interesting character, but he's actually gone through a few things already in the universe, and I feel that Mary has not. In the one story that I know of her where there was a story a couple years ago in the DC universe where there's like a dark alternate universe, something they do every couple years, and she got taken over and they used her power against a lot of people, and she's actually incredibly powerful, but then at the end of the story they just kind of reverted her back to Mary, and everyone was just like, I guess there's nothing about Mary, and that's a shame because she deserves more time. And that's all I gotta say, guys. She deserves more time.
Okay.
There you go.
That is good.
Thank you.
Now, I like that you said there's nothing about Mary. Was that in reference to there's something about Mary?
Exactly. Thank you very much for catching that.
Okay. All right, go. Keep that in mind. Dave?
Just give me a second.
Are you laughing?
Okay. Can't believe that's who you went with, but all right. It's fair, though. It's fair.
It's a character no one talks
I
about.
was about to say it's fair.
They did remove her from existence. She's this twin with the same powers and just nowhere to be found.
I'm happy that the judge is a little bit on my side without having to say anything yet. Anyways.
No. I'm not on anybody's side. I'm just explaining.
He's just stating.
That's cool. It's cool.
Yeah.
But you'll understand my point of view is all I'm saying.
Why are you so paranoid, Dave?
I'm not paranoid. I'm just trying really hard. I'm trying really hard not to laugh because.
All right, you ready, dude?
Yeah, I'm good.
3, 2, 1.
Okay, I'll be introducing, or hopefully introducing to the world, Animal Man. So Animal Man is one of these characters that a lot of people have a tendency to cringe when they see him. He is, his power set is not necessarily the biggest set. It's just one where he's able to mimic the power, absorb the power of any living being that has ever touched the red, which I'll get into what the red is in the DCU in a moment. So he could that's ever existed. So he could have the strength of a dinosaur as much as he could have the speed of a cheetah. He's a person who was a environmental activist that eventually got these powers, and at one point in time was in charge of what was called the Red. In the DCU, there's 3 important colors, I guess you would say, or elements that people aren't necessarily aware of, which is one is the green, which is what the Swamp Thing is in charge of, which is basically all plant life. There's one that's called rot, or the black, which is obviously death. And then you have the red, which is all living beings other than plants. He's been the avatar of the red several times. It seems to be a very important concept that not a lot of people know about. Actually, when I was researching this, I was like, oh, this is something that seems to be like, it's like living on Earth and not knowing what air is. These things seem to be excessively important, in which case everyone knows Swamp Thing already. So what would be a good way to introduce the world to these other important aspects is by introducing either someone from the rot or from the red in it. Animal Man's already a bit established, so that would be good. Another thing is that eventually you find out that although he thought he was the Avatar, it's actually his daughter who, when she brings pets back to life, that she's actually the new Avatar, and then everyone's hunting her. So there is essentially a fugitive family story going on where basically Buddy Barker, Animal Man, has to take his daughter and run across the earth to try and make sure that she could survive till she gets to an age where she can actually use her powers properly. Again, I've seen it's interesting because it's one of the very few horror books that is perfectly drawn. Another reason why I think this character be very interesting is because Grant Morrison is actually the creator. Grant Morrison did a lot of great work reworking Superman in the last couple of years. The fact that this is his creation obviously means that there was something bigger planned when creating it. And I think it's something interesting because it would show how there's a balance that needs to be maintained in the DCU that no one really knows about, and he's one of the key people. And at the same time, if you interact with him, you'd have to interact with Swamp Thing as well as interact with Death. And I think those are important aspects of the DCU that have not really been experimented with. So if you're able to touch onto this, you have a great family book, horror book, you learn about the DCU. I say it's all win-wins all around. And it'd be also good for kids. You can make it as good for kids, being all about the animals, or you can make it important to adults by being more horror-eccentric, which is what the comic book really is mainly about. Done.
All right. Right on time. Right on time. Man, this is very interesting. Both of you are kind of bringing out, I'm going to say, obscure characters.
Yeah,
definitely.
Animal Man, maybe not so much because he's been kind of brought back into relevance with the new 52 a little bit.
Yeah. But do you want us to do our minutes first before you?
Yeah, because it sounds.
Yeah, I do want you to do your minutes. Okay. I'm just kind of like going through a quick recap so I don't forget. All right, Animal Man and Mary Marvel. Doc, I shall let you rip it apart.
Okay.
Here's our
Tell me
3, 2, 1.
Any hero whose home base is Montana is not a hero you need to read about. I'll tell you right now. I'll also tell you, DC already has someone who can tap into animals. Their name's Vixen, and she does it way better. She does it with power, she does it with ease, and she does it with style. She doesn't need extra characters to make her stories more interesting. She can be who she is and make her story amazing. Using the Defender of the Red, all that stuff sounds really interesting. But once again, the fact that story's already out there means it doesn't need to be told again. So I'm not as interested. If you were to tell me that you wanted a story about the daughter, that sounds like it could potentially be interesting. But Animal Man himself, to me, seems like his story actually has come to an end. His daughter is there. She's the next generation. And guess what? We don't need Daddy. We need Animal Woman, if anything. Or Mary Marvel. Not a loser from Montana. Thank you.
I like the little thank you at the end. Oh, man. All right, I'm going to have fun with this. All right, let's do this.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
All right, well, first of all, screw Vixen. She needs an amulet. You take that amulet away, she got nothing. Just going to put that on the side. Second of all, we were talking about bad carbon copies the last episode. You know, Iron Man and what's his name? Rogers or whatever? No. Rhodey. So how on earth is she not? She's not even the carbon copy, because you said she's the sidekick of a sidekick. So she's like the carbon burnt ass copy on the side. Second of all, if we're talking about mimics and whatnot, you literally said she's a twin sister of a guy who has the same powers as the main character. So she's a D-grade version of it. Power doesn't. Also, as well spoken about, like Batman and other characters that have no powers. Just because you're powerful doesn't make you important, nor relevant, nor interesting. And if you're saying that Shazam's not those things with what he's got already, how on earth can she be? Also, if they bought it and bought a thing just for him and want to throw it on the side, you could keep her in the garbage. That's it.
Man. Oh, man.
I really needed more than a minute.
I would just like to point out,
This
I
is
never
tough.
mentioned she was a twin. Our judge did.
I did mention that.
So pointing attacks at me for statements I didn't make seems...
But also saying that she's a carbon copy would mean that Billy's a carbon copy as well, since they're twins. So there actually was no real reason to separate them at birth other than the company deciding that he was probably more important because he's a guy.
Yeah,
That's
you know
really the
how
only
it
thing I
is.
can.
Or
That's the
that
only
he
thing I
had
can really
more
think of.
style.
We know how it is.
well, okay, we're not bringing that up.
I think she would have been very important in terms of women characters. Marvel, DC could have really had their actual Captain Marvel. You know,
Yes.
it's gonna be their
Okay.
Captain Marvel.
I agree,
man.
sir.
But that would be ripping off
No.
Marvel's Captain Marvel,
And,
no?
No.
Because they're both...
Well, no, because this was before Marvel, right?
Exactly.
Oh, is it?
Yes, yeah. She's way before Carl Danvers.
Okay.
And Animal Man sounds pretty interesting. I do like that whole the red sort of situation. His powers, for some reason, when I was reading into it or listening to you talk about it, I should say, it kind of reminded me of the Animorphs. You remember that?
Yeah.
that show? Yeah, it kind of reminded me of that. But he doesn't really. But he has been known to take form of an animal, right?
He can...
But most of the time, he does use their abilities. Is pretty much what it is, right?
In extreme circumstances, he could actually transmorph.
Yes.
The only thing is that the thing that they
Right.
always try and emphasize is like it's just if something existed. Like, for example, if they proved that a dragon ever existed, he would be able to be as strong and fly.
He can draw power.
Yeah.
He can draw power from the animals.
He usually stays his form, but he just has the ability.
Oh,
Right.
okay. In the Injustice universe, I saw him turn into a centipede. Like,
Well, it depends.
can.
Like in some in alternate universes, his power
okay, yeah,
changes a bit.
Very creepy human.
Yeah.
Man, I honestly don't know if I care that much for his power set or his backstory, to be honest. Mary Marvel is also tough because I'm like, well, now we do have Captain Marvel. I kind of have to revert back to a mindset where I would think she would be relevant for this to even matter. Man,
Your Honor.
this is tough. Going back, I know this is tough. I have to take a second to breathe. Going back in time, I think I prefer Mary Marvel here, man. Yeah, so I actually really want to root for you this time. If you had picked someone else, I feel like I might have felt better about leaning your way, because Mary Marvel is not the strongest choice for me either. But based on the two that I had to deal with, unfortunately, I have to go with Lady Shazam, which is kind of cool. Actually, if you actually look at, never knew that Shazam actually meant something. It was like
it's
it's
Solomon's. Yeah, Solomon's wisdom, Hercules' strength, Apollo, the sun god,
Atlas.
Oh, Atlas. I guess Atlas' strength. Because what's Hercules?
Yeah. Hercules' strength, I guess. I don't know.
Hercules'
It's
will,
Solomon,
maybe?
Hercules, Atlas, Zeus, Achilles, and Mercury.
Yeah, which is messed up because they mix Greek and Roman and Christian.
What is Atlas?
And then hers.
Atlas
hers
is the one that holds the earth on his shoulders in Greek mythology.
Oh, that guy. Okay.
Yeah. So Hercules or Heracles, whichever one you want to use, is both Greek and Roman, so that's fine. Achilles is Greek, though. Mercury is Roman, though. Zeus is Greek.
They even switched to Egyptian at some points for what's her name? For Lady Shazam.
Yeah.
So they give her Selena's grace, Hippolyta's strength, Artemis, Zephyrus, Aurora, or Aphrodite, and Minerva. It's and then later on she becomes more powerful, and it's for Egyptian gods. So it becomes Shu, Heru, Amon, Zehuti, Aten, and Mehen.
Oh damn!
It's like, yeah.
Yeah, see, the one thing I knew is that she was very, very powerful. Like, she's fought, like, some of the biggest, like, Wonder Woman in them, and has been able to hold her own. And but that's the thing, they just never wrote stories about her because, like we were saying, she's considered the copy of a copy. Because, like, she's the twin, but she's, like, the secondary to Freddy. Because you have Billy Batson, then you have Freddy, who's... Captain Marvel Jr., and then you had her, who's Mary Marvel, and yeah. So, anyways, but yes, thank you.
I keep calling her Lady Marvel, but
yeah. But yes, wait, can I just ask one question? Actually, no, I don't want to lose time next time.
Yeah. All right.
I didn't
restrain.
Ask it.
Restrain.
I didn't ask it.
Practice what you preach, good sir.
So there you have it.
Okay.
Doc is our winner.
Thank you.
A deserving win to a certain degree.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm just joking.
I wasn't sure about the character I was selecting, and then I was like, actually, I don't think I'm going to win this one because Mary Marvel, as interesting as I think she is, isn't necessarily the most interesting. But Animal Man is as equally uninteresting as she is.
I should have went with the daughter.
Yeah.
I really think the daughter, the story, I would read the daughter's story.
Because the thing is, to me, is just, and maybe it was, I didn't do it right justice, but to me it's more like I think it's the
Defender of the Red.
You need to know about the red,
yeah,
like because everyone knows Swamp Thing. If you tell somebody, oh, he's in charge of the green,
yes,
he's in charge of plants, people are like, well, duh.
And then like Poison Ivy stole it once because they were
in love at one point.
Yeah,
like the two relationships that Poison Ivy has had that I was always like they should make a book out of this was one was with the Swamp Thing and one was with Clayface.
Oh, interesting.
And like because like he's like the ground that she used, like you know what I mean, and like. Yeah. I was like, oh, this is really... And then it ends up that she was manipulating him the whole time, which is a little bit of a letdown. But you're like, oh, it was such a good...
He's the... What's it called? Fertilizer?
Yeah, basically, you know? So that's how she took... That's actually, like, she took over some of his actual thoughts with things. And I was like, oh,
yeah,
such a good story.
You made me interested in learning about the green, the red, and the black.
Because I agree. When I read that, I was like, that sounds very important, too.
It's just, unfortunately, Animal Man, to me... that didn't come across as interesting. But when you said the daughter was the one in charge of the red, I was just like, oh, I'd read a book about her for sure. But yeah, okay, cool. So thank you for the judgment, and yeah, that's a judgment call. If you guys ever have ideas or anything, once again, you can always hit us up in the comments and anywhere you're listening to this. We'll be checking all the different comments, whether we post this on Facebook or if you're watching the YouTube or listening to the YouTube or anywhere. And then you leave your comments below, and we'll check it out for people that you think we should be judging, or if you have thoughts on that oppose the judge, and you have opinions, we will always, take those. Even though the judgment's already been made, you can still voice your opinion. We're going to be going.
You can appeal. You can appeal the decision.
Ooh, yes, there you go. Make appeals. So next up, like we said, we're doing the review of Saga. This is once again Volume 1, collects issues 1 through 6, and it's written by Brian K.Vaughan and art by Fiona Staples. And let's begin, guys. Let's. What are your general thoughts? I mean, I'll start with my general thoughts on this. I love this.
Yeah.
I really like. I'm not the biggest fantasy fan. I'm really not. Lord of the Rings, Hobbit. All that fantasy style storytelling, it's cool, but I'm not big into it. I prefer the supernatural approach to that type of stuff. Fantasy, like, if you're going to have stories about fairies and werewolves and stuff like that, I'd rather someone be hunting and trying to make sure they don't take over the world in some crazy wild way that they do, as opposed to a Lord of the Rings where you're just a part of that fantasy world and you're just living with the wizards and the orcs and we talked about Bright recently. It's an interesting take, but I mean that's probably the closest to having my interest because the take was modernized, but most fantasy isn't. But that's where this works well because Saga takes advantage of the space aspect of the sci-fi and mixes it with the fantasy really well. And as much as I usually don't...
And wrapped in a very, very compelling story.
Yeah. I really like... So Alana's the mom, Marko's the dad, Hazel's the baby. You're getting a story from the perspective of Hazel. At least that's what we think. that's what it comes across as.
I would say the narrator is definitely Hazel.
But we've had a conversation in the past about this, and one of the things that we thought was a great touch was the fact that Hazel's speech is made to be subtle to the grand scheme of the story as Fiona Staples drew it. It never takes up. Like we talked about Batman in the last episode, and how the thoughts and the monologue. And it's funny, now that I think about it, the monologuing done by Robin and Batman in that issue is almost jarring because of the way it's done in these big, ripped out pages of a diary splashed onto huge sections.
Takes up a whole page worth of exposition. Whereas in this scenario, Fiona Staples and I guess Brian also had something to do with this. Yeah. Just insert the thoughts in her speech around the objects on the page.
Yes.
So it's not really in any sort of thought bubble or anything. It's just a part of the environment. It's just you can tell this is her story.
Yeah.
It's a part of her story, so her words are a part of the imagery that you're seeing.
They maximize, sometimes they say, oh, you got to maximize an image, you got to maximize how you say things and whatnot. And I think that's the thing that you could say about this book. As balanced as it is with all the different elements that are going on, it is maximized to the max. Every page, anything that you see on a page is important. Any word that's said, there are some words when I reread this, I'm like, oh yeah, because I've read a few issues after what we're reading today. I'm like, some things that are being said actually apply to later on. So there might be a lot of things that are being said that I've not heard of yet, but are probably apply later on.
Yeah,
as you're saying, the flow, the general flow of how people talk is very human.
Yeah.
When people talk, the way they interact with each other, the way that they think and behave, it's very human-esque. Like perfect example. There's one point in time in this book where Alana finds out that Marko was married, right?
Yeah.
And he talks to her, Gwendolyn, and she's like, well, why didn't you tell me? He's like, well, you told me, the past is the past, and that's it. We're in the now. And she's like, yeah, but that was about random hookups.
That's something a guy would say.
I was just gonna say.
Exactly.
I was just gonna say.
Then her reaction,
that is such a male response.
But her reaction, such a female reaction, being like, well, that only meant that about hookups, not about people you're going to be married to.
Yeah.
It's very human.
Much what the woman would say.
Exactly, right? And then,
in this situation,
and how they make it flow, sometimes I was reading panels and I was like, I actually had to relook at the page. I'm like, oh, it flows so well that I forgot there's a little bit of dialogue because it's just I don't know, it's beautiful. How this whole thing, it's almost easier to say what you don't like about. If we had to say what we didn't like about it, this would be 2 minutes. Whereas if we got as much time in the world, I could talk about this for 5 hours.
Yeah,
it's such a well written book.
Yeah, I don't think there are very many things I didn't think of anything. I can't think of anything I didn't like about it.
If anything, it's
if I did think something, it'd be very very nitpicky, very, very, very.
There's the one thing that I think we could both that most of us have probably thought of that we found a little hard to swallow. It was issue. I don't remember which issue. 4 maybe. Sextillion. So first of all. You get a character, the Will, who's a bounty hunter. Once again, bounty hunters are a very big part of space operas, as you come to notice. The Will and the Stalk are two that are part of the story early on. And the Will realizes that he's offered the mission to hunt down Alana and Marko, and I think they know about the baby at that point. Yeah, Hazel. But he doesn't want the mission. He's just like, nah, this doesn't seem interesting to me. I'm going to max out this...
Oh, actually, before you continue, sorry. Yeah. The reason why they're being hunted is because they're from 2 opposing races.
Oh, yeah.
And they're not supposed to be mingling, and they ended up hooking up because Alana was a security guard and Marko was a prisoner.
Yeah.
They fell in love with each other in the prison through daily interactions, had a baby together, and now they're on the run from everyone who pretty much wants them dead and doesn't want people to... And then the people in charge, the robots, I guess, do we even have a name for their race?
I don't think so. I don't think they give a race.
Right? Yeah, they're pretty much... They're pretty much, they have human bodies, but television heads.
So creepy. That's my only critique. That thing's creepy.
The fact that the first time you see them, they're having sex, and it just looks like two weird cosplay people wearing television heads having sex. And I remember the first time I saw it, I was just like, are they going to take the television heads off? And I was like, oh no, that is their head.
It's just like that DJ with the big mouse head or whatever. Yeah. It's like 2 of them.
And whatever they're feeling kind of just shows up on the screen, but most of the time it's just a blank screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so they want to hunt down these 2 because they don't want their people to start seeing that both races can get along. Is that
and have a kid?
Yeah.
That was
They didn't even know that they could have a kid.
Yeah,
that's actually said. They're like, oh, you guys could have sex,
Prince
let alone
Robot.
make a baby.
Yeah, Prince Robot the Fourth was just like, oh, these savages. I thought they.
It's just it's a story of pure ignorance and racism. And it's done in a pretty clever and digestible way. Where you can
really
get the point without you feeling like someone's trying to
shove it down your throat.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to use another word, but pretty much just shove it down your throat.
Yeah.
It tackles this book is like, it's very the word is on point. That's all I could say. Like the character's on point, the artistry is on point, and the thing about the characters, like you're like after reading issue 1, as much as they were new characters, I felt like I don't know if it's how they were written or how they were presented, but it felt like I already knew the characters too. Like they feel so down to earth, so human. They're so relatable.
Like you're thrown in right into their lives. Like the first thing you see is her being Alana in a vulnerable position.
Yeah, she's giving birth.
You know what I mean? You're right away. You're in. So he does a very good job. I don't know how he came up with introducing characters like this, but
I think that's a good point, Tobes. The fact that he makes her so vulnerable, and that you get introduced at that point. And he makes Marko vulnerable because Marko at that point is like a beaming father-to-be who's just so in love, and you're just like, it's that connection. I guess being there for a couple delivering their child into the world would make anyone feel like, well, I'm connected to you because I've seen you at your most emotional moments in your life.
She's in those 3 pages going through the wildest range of emotions, from like pain to anger to yelling at him. Yeah. And he's also like, he's vulnerable. And he's like, oh my gosh, she's having a baby. But he's like, he's... he loves her. He takes what she dishes, he wants to be there so much, and he wants this to happen so much. And you get that right from the beginning. You get that they love each other right away. And that's really hard. That's really hard to do. Yeah. To get you invested like that in characters so early from the first couple pages.
And there's actually something that actually starts at the beginning, which I also think flows into this. The first words you read out of this book is, and I think it's really interesting because I feel like it has a lot of double meanings. Is that the first sentence we read, which is Hazel's thought, is, "This is how an idea becomes real." That's the first sentence. Yeah. So you read that and like, okay. Sure, that's obviously, there's the direct meaning that, okay, we're talking about a birth, right? Yeah. But then again, this is the first sentence of a comic book series. Yeah. So this is the first thing he had to think to actually get it going. Yeah. For all you know, this may have been one of his first ideas, but it's only taken him this long to get to this point. Yep. And I feel like this whole book, I actually describe it as going to school. Because this is, in my opinion, this is honestly one of the best things I've ever read, which I'm really happy that Doc found it for us. But like, this book is like going to school. It's literally schooling you on not just how to tell a story or telling stories through visuals. It's literally teaching you how comics are meant to be. Yeah. From every aspect, from the drawing to how you, not just the writing, but how you present the writing, how people have to look.
The covers. And the covers. And interactions between characters.
Completely.
Yeah. Masterclass.
Exactly. And even anytime you see a facial expression, you don't need to actually have writing. Yeah. Specifically, like there's that issue when Marko starts, he's like all normal, and then the second someone shoots Alana,
when he goes into
mode, crazy, man, that is some
berserker mode
shit. That is some really messed up crap.
Yeah, I mean,
he's a guy who's trying to kind of run away from his militant past and not really use his magic. By the way, he has magic powers. Not really use his magic, and just want to live a docile familial life. But first, he has to not be on the run as much, so he has to find a safe haven for his family. Yeah, and then he's forced into. They get cornered at one point by the army or a few soldiers. And one of them shoots his wife in the shoulder, and he just loses.
Yeah, his like Wolverine style berserker mode,
scary. Yeah, actually scary when you're reading. Yeah. Like, I was like, I would not want to be on the other side of this.
Specifically because to that point, you see him as a loving father who's trying to protect and trying to do what's needed for his family.
He's calm.
He's calm,
very calm.
and he's like an ex-soldier, and he's just like, I'm not going to be that person anymore. I don't want to be the soldier anymore. I want to be better. I never want to lift my sword again, so on and so forth. And then in a split second, when his family is threatened, that berserker mode of anger, and the way Fiona drew his face of like just like the darkness around his eyes and the anger, he looks like a virile animal.
He looks like he changes.
Feral animal, sorry. Yeah, he
changes.
does.
He digresses.
He does change.
Yeah, he does.
Digresses. And the thing is,
He's
savage.
He's not himself, and the only way for her to stop him was to shoot him in the shoulder.
Yeah, which is it's very telling.
Or was it? I guess a stun gun. Just
Yeah,
stun
she
setting
said it's the stun gun because at one point in time someone says you can't hurt me with that, but she's like, I know you need my baby alive, so I'll kill my baby before.
Yeah.
I give it to you, which is really also in depth because like again that's a lot of people would be like, oh, she's not a real mother. I'd be like, no, that's like the most motherly thing that she can do because she knows that if I die and she goes with you, you're gonna have the worst, most likely 99% chance you're gonna have the worst life ever.
Well, that's some Solomon style stuff, right? That's the exact story from King Solomon. Okay, I'll cut the baby in half. You can each have a half, and then the mother's just like, well, no, let them have the baby. Then I would rather the baby go with them than be cut in half.
Yeah. But in this situations, I'd rather the baby die.
Yeah, but I mean it only as in like the option in that story was at least the baby lives with a like supposed loving family in Solomon's story.
Right.
In this one, it's no, this baby's going to be taken and probably tested on, and God knows what, and it's just like, well, hell's no. I'd rather pop a bullet through the head and kill, and I kill the baby and kill myself, and that's it. You will never have the baby, and so ends the tale of Hazel. And crazy enough. Yeah, I mean, but because of those sacrifices and those threats and all the decisions made, Hazel gets to live, and it's a pretty intense story. I mean, it's
pretty. Yeah, and speaking of Hazel, I just want to touch on that. When she's telling this story and stuff like that, you're not sure if she somehow remembers this being around it as a tiny little 1-week-old baby, or 2 or whatever how old she is, because she's literally a baby in these first few issues here.
Yeah. Yeah, she's a newborn.
So she just sort of have that memory, and she just caught on and remembers everything, and that's her ability. Or we're going to find out later on, or is it stories that people have told her? Because in the beginning of the story, it's just Marko and Alana in the room.
Yeah,
right. The birth is just happening. She's giving birth, and she's pushing, and he's just there, right?
Yeah, that's
so. I'm wondering how she remembers to tell this part of the story.
But there's also times where she's obviously making comments about other people's stories that she's not a part of, right? Like there's times like she's making comments when the Will's like on his own, and he's like, "Oh, this guy's a monster, but I'm going to meet him eventually." So that means she has.
Someone's told her.
Someone's had to have sat her down and been like, "So there's a lot of shit that happened, and you need to know in order to understand." Like, I'm assuming there's an issue later on where they're like, "You know what? You actually have to know everything to happen, so you either forgive or are able to handle this other issue later on in life."
Yeah. That's a valid.
And I like how she kind of gives us spoilers, which is crazy because you'd think it'd take you out of it. Like at some points, she tells you what's going to happen with her parents later on.
Oh yes,
you're
that's
like,
true.
Oh, so we are leading to this, but I guess we're sticking on because the story is good enough for you to stick on. It's not just about Alana and Marko. So regardless of what happens to them in the future, you're still enticed and like to stay in and enjoy this ride with the story that Hazel's telling.
Yeah, because Hazel actually says like, "I'm not the hero," which might be modesty, of course, on her part, because because at one point in time, I was actually going to make a comment about something I think she says in another later, so I won't. But
cheater.
She's just, I don't know how they just engage, how they made it that she's the narrator and then says, okay, my parents are going to be the people who are going to be the saviors, which doesn't say whether or not the parents are alive or not alive when she's making these comments. Just makes it very interesting. And like one other thing I want to give credit to Fiona. It is Fiona the artist, right? That's her name?
Fiona Staples.
So I think on the last the scene where you actually see Marko say, "Oh, tell my bride Gwendolyn I love her."
Oh yeah.
And you have that moment where you see Isabel's and Alana's face.
Isabel, who we haven't mentioned already, but is the kind of like ghost babysitter that you encounter. We're leaving out a lot of things only because there's so much story to be told that we can't cover everything. No. But if anything,
in this first few issues, there's just a lot.
Yeah, it's
but
too much.
If anything, we want you to read this. Yeah, I mean, we'll probably say it in our final thoughts, but I'm pretty sure we're all going to agree on that. So go ahead, sorry.
But no, it's okay. It's just that in that one image, which is just it's a splash page. It's just their two faces. The range of emotion for considering that it's not filmed. Right, because when you film something, right, you're able to go through emotions easily. But this is a still photo. When you look at Alana's face, there's anger, there's concern, there's love, there's this what the fuck moment.
Yeah, Isabel's like she's awkwardness.
Just,
uh-oh.
There's so much happening for a single frame photo.
Yeah,
and that's
Dude.
what it's like. This is if you.
Fiona Staples did an incredible job.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
Like there's the first few pages again. Going back to the beginning here because it's everything you need to know about the characters is literally in their faces.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In the first few.
I wonder if she's the type of artist who has models like do faces and then she draws from that, or if she's just that talented from the get-go, because it's beautiful art. It's expressive, it's beautiful, it's detailed. I mean, it's realistic,
and it's kind of erotic too at the same time.
Oh, it's very erotic
And gruesome.
When there's the naked scenes and stuff like that, especially at the beginning again when Alana's like giving birth and she's like, it doesn't hurt at all. It feels good. And if you look at her face, you're like, actually, you can tell by her face it feels good. Like, it looks like a normal reaction. You feel what these people are feeling because Fiona somehow put your face there.
Yeah.
You know,
well said.
Put your face on the pages. It's crazy.
Very well said.
Brian K.Vaughan and Fiona Staples are both at, I guess you could say, at the top of their game with this. Yeah. It really came down to Brian's writing and Fiona just being able. They obviously work very well together.
They had to connect at some point. Like it's as if like when he was saying it, she was already drawing it.
Yeah,
like she's like, I know exactly where you're going.
Yeah, and I mean you can tell, and that's what makes Saga. I mean, they're 51 issues deep now. People are always clamoring for more. I remember when there was like a gap between some of the issues being released. People were like, "When's the next one?" And you get it because. From issue 1, like we said, being there for those raw moments for these characters, you feel so connected to it that you really want to know more. Like, you really, really, really want to know more. And, I mean, like, again, there's so many characters that we don't even get to touch. The Will and Lion Cat, for example.
Oh, don't even get me started.
I only mention them because issue 4, the cover of issue 4 is my favorite. It was my background on Facebook for a long time. That image of the Will with Lion Cat standing next to him and then looking off into the distance and the Will smoking. And funny enough though, that as much as that is my favorite cover, that is my least favorite issue because that issue made me so uneasy with the amount of because it's all about them being on a sex planet.
Yeah, the dominatrix planet. If anything.
And there's it's like the lowest of the low back alley stuff, or
it depends where you are on the planet.
Exactly.
There's those angels having infamous orgies.
Yeah, so there's that aspect of the beauty of it because the art's beautiful and it's and then the next panel will be 6 guys in a pyramid being spanked by a dominatrix, and the next panel will be it gets darker and dirtier, and then you finally get to the center of it because the pimp is taking the Will deeper and deeper, thinking he's not interested, but it's not just that. The Will is obviously a depressed person, and he just didn't want to actually be there, but he, for some reason, thought that's where he needed to go. But then there's a child, and you're like, how deep, dark, and depraved is this planet? And then you start to see the type of person the Will is.
Yeah.
And I'm not even going to tell you. I want you to wonder. I want you to wonder when I say that. What type of person is the Will? I'll tell you this much. I like the Will, so hopefully you know the type of character he is. Sorry, you were going to say...
Well, what about his sex life?
Yeah, the stalk. I mean, so the Will's ex-partner and ex-lover, obviously, is probably one of the most interestingly drawn and created characters.
Creepy.
Yeah,
definitely.
You should see Dave's face. He looks petrified.
It doesn't make me feel good.
His eyes are closed because he doesn't even want to look out into the real world right now. He's scared.
She's someone who was going after Marko and Alana as well, and she encountered them in the forest for the first time. Before they met Isabel, actually, she was the first one they met in the forest.
True, yeah.
And picture this. Picture if you look up in the distance, it's dark, but you can still see someone's silhouette.
Yeah.
Up in the distance. Normal head in the distance.
Yeah.
Normal shoulders.
Yeah.
Torso looks normal.
Yeah.
And the rest on the way down, you probably think the person has a gown on.
Yeah.
Right?
Or a dress or something.
Now, as they're walking towards you out of the shadows into the light, okay, you see the face. It's definitely not a human face.
6 eyes.
It's a spider's face.
And you're like, okay.
A spider female face.
Spider female, but with...
it's so hard to describe.
Yeah.
Like, even with us trying to do this, I feel like we'll never do it full justice. But by all means, we're still going to try because it's just funny to try.
It's like 4 eyes on either side.
Yeah.
So instead of like 1 eye, you have 4 just going down vertically on either side. Normal nose, normal mouth.
No arms.
Blonde hair.
Yeah.
Normal boobs because obviously she's naked. You can tell as she came closer to you, but she has no arms. She's missing arms, and she does have a skirt on, which is covering her legs. And as she takes her legs off,
out.
Full spider on the bottom.
You know, I have to say this though, really quick.
So creepy.
When you see her without the arms and the way she's standing, did you guys think of maybe a Venus statue?
Yeah, or she was having one of these things where she's like putting her arms back and trying to be seductive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then you realize she just had but it is the Venus de Milo sort of stuff.
Yeah, because I really think, and this is where I'm wondering about Fiona using models, or it really feels like she looked at the Venus statue and was just like, okay, using that as a base, how do I draw this and make it alluring? Because Venus is already alluring and goddess of love and sexuality and all that stuff. So I'm gonna use that as a jumping point, and then I'm also gonna make it, because this is supposed to be a monster. This is the type of person who kidnaps a child from their parents. So how do I make that darker? How do I make that a little creepier? And then you see, so you get, as Tobi was saying, you get closer, you get the eyes, the monster features start to come out, and then when the legs come out, that's when the games really get afoot. It's some creepy ass shit to see
that's
that
when
many
the throw up
spider legs.
and each spider leg has
a weapon.
It's not a point. It's like a hand at the end of each leg.
Yeah, it's true.
Holding a weapon.
Yeah.
But the thing is, as horrifying
it's like she's trying to flash you in that photo.
As horrifying as she is, though, there's still something sexual about her, and you can sort of understand why the will falls for her. It's weird.
Oh, God.
There is a weird. It's just the way she's drawn. Eloquent. How do I pronounce this? How do I put this?
Eloquently.
Eloquent. Eloquently.
Disturbing.
Horrifying.
Eloquently disturbing.
But something like that. Something along those lines.
Yeah.
Because
there's still beauty.
All you guys have to do is Google it.
Yeah, there's still beauty in the pure creepiness of it.
I feel like maybe Fiona was going with this thing okay, I need to make the most beautiful, scary monster. Yeah. So what are we going to do? So Venus is the epitome of beauty.
Yeah.
Everyone's terrified of spiders.
Yes.
So
that's a good point.
I'm just going to give... What do people hate about the spiders? The legs, for sure. So you know what? People don't like the multiple eyes. There you go. And then that's... She's like, what can make a spider worse? Well, if we gave it hands with a bunch of weapons... And then, why don't we use... is there anything else you could do? Let's make the tongue be able to puncture people.
Oh, yeah.
She has a spear-like tongue.
And the thing is...
and when you first see her, so I didn't, not knowing that she has spider legs under that skirt or gown, bottom,
that was
whatever you want to call it.
Crazy shocking.
She looks like I thought she was some sort of a siren or something.
Yeah.
Right? I thought she was the horror they were talking about in the forest, right?
Yeah. Did you guys ever see Maniac Mansion when you were a kid?
I used to love that show.
I feel like she saw that show and then was doing this.
Yeah, the uncle was a fly.
Yeah.
I love that show.
I mean, that's a long touch on what she looks like, but yeah, she's really that interesting.
She's very interesting, that's true.
And the will, and just knowing that the will, used
was
to...
like a love interest.
Like hardcore, though.
Yeah.
He's a
really
freak.
He's super in love with her.
Yeah, so guys, I mean, our review probably doesn't scratch the surface of everything we can talk about. But
literally could talk about this book for hours.
Yeah, and that's one of the things. So instead of talking about it for hours, we're going to go into the next segment. But if anything, we're telling you guys,
pick it up.
We definitely pick it up. We're going to discuss it a little bit more in the final thoughts, but definitely something worth reading. Going into our next segment, we call this non-canon.
Dun, dun, dun.
Where we like to match up. So
Can I throw you a curveball?
Oh,
go
sure.
for it.
What's
Right
up?
before.
Instead of not canon, could we do another best, fave, worst?
Sure.
Oh,
if you
yeah,
want.
sure, okay.
As long as you have a what's. I feel like you have like a
Best
smirk on
fave,
your face.
worst superhero weapon.
Superhero weapon. Okay.
Yeah. I feel like there's a whole array of options compared to our last best, fave, worst. I think I'm going to throw in I want to throw in.
So weapons.
I'm trying. It's easy to figure out the best and the fate. Well, it's easier to narrow those. But the same would be
also
worst.
like another category about intrigue, like another one that you're intrigued about. The reason I say that because I have one, the helmet of Naboo.
Oh.
So
Okay,
that's
so-
notable mentions. I do that all the time.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, so notable mentions,
go.
you can do that. And then,
Okay.
so best, favorite, worst, weapons.
Trying to think of the worst. That's what I can't.
Yeah, that's the one that I think I might have a little bit of trouble with because I don't really think about...
No, I have a worst. Okay,
Okay.
I can do worst. I got one.
Okay, hit us.
I got one. Okay, sorry. Okay, I'll start with saying a worst.
Yeah.
I'm trying. The Penguin's stupid umbrellas.
Oh, okay.
Lamest thing alive.
Oh, he's not a superhero; he's a villain. Strictly superhero.
Okay, so then I'm gonna take
okay.
it back, and I'm gonna be
Strictly superheroes. Like I would say Captain America's shield, but then I know he's not invincible, so he needs a shield
Yeah.
either way. The only reason I say it's stupid, kind of like Wonder Woman's gauntlets as well, is the fact that, well, what is it really blocking? If they shoot your feet, they can shoot your legs.
I got
But
it.
no one ever seems to aim low. Everyone seems to aim high.
completely
Yeah, everyone
got it.
aims for the chest.
Okay, no,
Yeah.
worst is Batman's shark repellent.
Oh, God.
Boom.
Yeah.
That's
Did they
the worst.
did they
I'm
even
doing
ever
it.
use
I
that in
don't
the
care.
comic?
It's existent. Everyone knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Worst
yeah.
is the shark repellent. When is a shark going to jump out of the water and attack you that you're going to actually spray it? It's the worst.
True.
It's got to be the worst.
Batman 66 failing us from day one.
Plenty of laughs, though. And then I would say, I could do all these actually. I would say maybe my one of my favorites, because my best and my favorite are going to tie, but I guess my notable mention as a favorite would be I always loved Judge Dredd's gun.
Oh, yeah.
Because you could just change whatever the hell you want out of it and whatnot. It's always really cool. But my real best and / favorite lightsaber. Specifically the green lightsaber. I actually have a collector version at home that I don't let people touch. Well, actually, that's a lie. I let people touch, but the second they start waving around, I start getting really paranoid because someone's actually once hit it against something. I'm like, I'm going to kill you. But no, definitely I would say lightsaber. My favorite, for sure.
Okay, what about if you're gonna go with specific weapons from a specific? Like I was thinking, like characters who have just like their main weapon, but you're talking about like, an arsenal of weaponry.
Yeah.
I'm gonna add Green Arrow's like boxing glove arrow.
As the worst?
Yeah, if we're doing that, it's so impractical. It would lose so much velocity before it even gets to where it needs to get to punch. It with enough velocity to punch someone in the face and knock them out. That's definitely like the worst weapon I've probably ever heard of. And I think there was actually an Easter egg on Arrow for this weapon in the first couple seasons. Yeah, let me look it up.
Did he actually throw a punch one?
No. But I think it shows up. It was an Easter egg in one episode.
Okay. I'm going to go for what I think is probably... So I don't think it's actually the best. But I think it's the best for how do I explain this? It's the only reason the character is alive.
Okay.
So the Black Knight from Marvel
Okay.
has the new Excalibur.
Mm-hmm.
And without that sword, there's no reason for him to exist as a character. So for that reason, it's because I mean, like the whole idea is he's a gifted scientist. He's an expert swordsman. The sword is immune to magic. But without that... Oh, he's also very skilled at martial arts. He's as skilled a fighter as Captain America or Wolverine, which is very high.
Yeah.
He's an expert horseman. He has knowledge of magic, skilled tactician. So if you take away the sword, though, he doesn't have his swordsman ability. He's still good with martial arts, and he doesn't have his immunity to magic. So he essentially just becomes like any well-trained shield agent. Which, like, the thing that separates him is the fact that he has the sword, and the sword is
And
what...
that's it.
Yeah, and it makes him better. So for that reason, I consider it one of the best because it makes the person better.
Yeah.
Like, if you took away Captain America's shield, Captain America's still Captain America.
Yeah, he's still a super soldier.
Yeah, if you take away Black Panther's vibranium suit, he still has a whole bunch
He's
of
still
other...
Black Panther.
He's still Black Panther. If you take away Black Knight's sword,
He's
still impressive, but he's a poor man's Batman, let's say.
But here's the thing: if you take away Batman's, well, I guess he's technically still Batman if you take away his weaponry, but he's kind of not very much without his arsenal of rich boy stuff.
Yeah.
That's arguable.
Yeah.
I mean,
but he's still. I mean, he's still like a good detective, martial arts, whatever you want to call it.
Like this guy's,
right? So
because Batman, if anything, trained himself to be peak performance that a human of his age can be at. But he's also, mentally one of the strongest in the DC universe. He's one of the smartest, regularly recognized.
Still, I think that needs to be dialed back. He can't be that OP. This dude can literally repel someone trying to get into his mind.
Yeah. Anyway. He has all the walls and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, so when it, like, if I was gonna say best, favorite, worst, I think that when I think of worst weaponry, I do think Batman because he relies on a lot of that stuff. And is actually capable, mind you. Because of his genius level, he developed that stuff, so it's still impressive. Man, this is a hard one, Tobes, to throw on us.
Right? I thought so.
Yeah. I still think the new Excalibur is probably the best, only because it actually creates the hero.
Did you guys like Stormbreaker?
Yeah,
in the movies,
I like Storm. In the movie, no.
In the movie, no. In the
comic book, I
yes.
like. Yeah,
just like Mjolnir's. Like I was gonna actually say at first the best would be Mjolnir. I think did I say it right?
Mjolnir.
Mjolnir.
It's definitely
my girlfriend says Mir. So
yeah, like that weapon is definitely like at the top, right?
Yeah,
let's be honest. Like it controls the power of lightning. Well, it's been known to be a holder of lightning powers and this and that and whatnot. But then again,
the Mighty Thor story added a whole other dimension to it, where it's a living being.
Yeah,
inside, like it is the energy of the storm.
Yeah,
and it is sentient. So
that's why it chooses who can pick it up and stuff, right?
Yeah. Well, I think it's more just like there are times where what's her name, Jane Foster was like dying, and it would show up and it would be like. It doesn't talk, but it would just stay there.
It's like nodding yes and up and down.
It's like in front of her, and she'd be like, okay, I know you want me to take you out to do something. And it would just stand there, and she'd be like, okay. And then she'd grab it and turn into... And then she'd know what she has to do, so...
I wasn't a fan of that turn, but that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
What's the worst?
Did I pick a best? No, I didn't pick a best.
No. Trying to think of the worst.
This is pretty tough.
Thanks, Tobi. Thanks for making this one of the
I know. I'm kind of stumping myself. You know what? My favorite, I'm going to go ahead and call it, and I'm going to call him a superhero because of the second movie. I like Yondu's arrow. Fuck it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, shit. That's
I'm going to go with Yondu's arrow. It just flies through your enemies from a distance with a whistle. I feel like you're almost unbeatable from a distance.
He'd definitely be a sharpshooter. Like,
he takes down an
got
entire
a whistle
ship,
and
right?
hide. Yeah, takes up a whole entire battalion of people in like 2 minutes.
Yeah. Do you think he can see through the eye of the arrow?
He has to have some type of
some kind of connection
to it.
Okay,
yeah. He has to, because there's no way he'd be able to whistle, because he was killing people not looking at them.
Yeah,
so he had to. He has to.
It was like his final hurrah. Yeah, I think. But it's still not the best. But it's definitely my favorite right now, based on everything I've seen so far in the universe.
Yeah. For favorites,
are we all stuck on favorite on best? Oh no, you're stuck on favorite.
Yeah, for me,
did
because
you have
I still say the sword is the best, only because of what it grants. Oh, I know what my favorite is. A Green Lantern ring.
Oh shit!
Oh,
That's technically
okay.
a weapon. That's technically.
I mean, it is.
Yeah,
Without
is.
it,
Yeah,
what do
yeah.
you do? What do you do? I mean, it's
man.
equivalent to the sword. You can't do anything without it.
Okay, I have too many favorites.
Yeah, for me, a Green Lantern ring is my favorite weapon for a hero. Like for,
A hero.
Yeah, because
Out of all the heroes that have or rely on a weapon, that's your favorite one.
Yeah, because it's a weapon powered by your will and your. I mean, you can misuse it because Hal misuses it when he's parallax, but you can also. So it doesn't choose sides, which I like. You know, Mjolnir picks sides. You can only use it if you're worthy. You know, the Rage Lantern rings are if you're angry.
Well, actually,
fear is if you're out to create fear. But the will, you can be a bad Green Lantern
and still have it.
Yeah, like Guy Gardner.
He's not the nicest person.
He
in the
was
world.
not the nicest person and still had a ring.
Right?
Sinestro had a ring. Was a horrible person. Hal, when he's possessed, still had the ring. Horrible person.
But with that thought, wouldn't logically and I'm not trying to influence you or anything, but wouldn't you suggest that the worst would then be a Red Lantern ring? Because when you do get it, you lose all your humanity unless you're dunked into the original planet's like bloodbath, and that's when you gain your sanity. And at the same time, your heart explodes immediately the second you put it on.
The second you put on
you put it on, you have no more heart. If you take it off, the person dies.
Oh, I didn't even know that part.
Yeah. So you
Wait,
basically
which ring?
The Red
Lantern ring. What happens is that your heart explodes.
Yeah.
It's now your heart, the ring. B, unless you're put into their bloodbath ritual, you're basically a savage beast. Also, if you're that savage beast, you have basically no control. Well, you'll have like an animal instinct, always like barf acidic blood on people, and that's always just not a good thing to really have. You know, you're really happy, you spit up a bit, and you burn people.
Actually, now that you've brought up you've made that argument for the red ring, I will tell you my worst ring, or worse, the Avarice ring, the orange one.
Like, how would that be the worst though?
What do you do with it? What is that?
It has all, because the thing is, Red Lanterns can't actually make. Sorry, they can make constructs, but it takes them a long time to learn it. Avarice ring is just the equivalent of a Green Lantern ring. The only thing is that when you put it on, you'll be obsessed with having. You become a collector.
Yeah, an obsessive collector.
But that's worse than your heart exploding.
I mean, yeah,
I think it is.
Oh,
I think it is because you kind of lose yourself. Your heart exploding. Okay, I just keep the ring on. Okay, cool. You know.
But with Avarice, you can't even have a team.
That's true.
I remember, wasn't it Lex Luthor and that Atreus?
Oh man,
I know that I can
never pronounce his name.
Yeah,
it starts with an A.
Yeah, but that guy that looks like a
is it Avarice?
Yeah, Avarice. Yeah, Avarice? He looks like a poor man's Betteray Bill, essentially.
Yeah, definitely. That's a very good description.
Yeah.
That's very on point.
And then you find out that the other ring is like on Lex or something, and he like gets obsessed with making sure that he's the only one.
Yeah, because that's during the darkest, brightest day, darkest night thing.
So for me, that seems like the worst because you become so obsessive that you start to make poor decisions. It gives you the ability to make constructs, but you're like. Avarice becomes so obsessive he like hides away and he's just like in a cave with his like his ring and his lantern. He's just like, it's mine, I have it, and you're like, okay, that just to me seems like a waste of a.
It's ring of crack, basically.
Yeah, yes, it makes you like an addict. That's why I think it's the worst. And I think my favorite is the Green Lantern ring, and then Black Knight. I just think his sword is, and I mean, like again, I don't think it's the best, but for what it does and for who he is, it seems interesting.
I think my best, I'm going to have to go with the Mark L armor from Infinity War for Iron Man.
It was pretty dope.
I think in terms of like, again, it made him way stronger than he should have been.
Yeah.
The nanotechnology, the nanite, like the relocation of the nanotech when he like loses it at a certain part, they kind of grow back and he has these like repulsor cannons that come out from the sides now and he could blow through alien metal. Like it's everything you ever want as a human with no powers is in that one suit, and it's lighter than before. It's kind of like Black Panther's habit, like his suit in terms of how it kind of just materializes on you, right? Yeah. I think he saw that and tried to pretty much imitate it for his suit next.
Probably.
You right? Don't you notice is right after Black Panther did that? So Tony is sneaking that way. and trying to sort of like take other people's tech and make it his.
That's true.
Yeah, but yeah, I think that's my best one if I had to pick one.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then what was your favorite?
I always forget. I gotta write these down. You guys do yours and I'll get you mine.
Well, I'll just sum mine up again. So I would definitely say I think the best is a lightsaber.
Oh yes.
I am now completely torn about what my favorite one is. It would be a tie between lightsaber, Green Lantern ring, and Judge Dredd's gun. All for different. See, all those are different purposes. They're different sections of life choices.
That's
so
fair.
There's that. The definitely the worst is the Batman shark repellent. I don't even like. That's just collecting dust.
I think your Green Arrow punch arrow.
That was the worst one. Yeah. My favorite one that eludes me right now. Interesting.
I don't think you made a choice on it. That's why.
I'm not sure you did.
I did.
Yeah, well, we'll have to listen back to it then.
Oh, I just had it. And I lost it. Yeah, but yeah, if you guys want to know, just go back 3 or 4 minutes. That's all you got.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And I guess my most honorable mention is the Helmet of Fate.
Oh, Naboo.
Or
yeah,
or Helmet of Naboo, same thing, right?
Yeah.
Because I just feel like, man, there's so much power in just that one helmet. But the problem again with that helmet is the same thing as with the orange ring, is the fact that you're not yourself. You lose control. You're not you. You know?
Yeah.
Someone else, when you put the helmet on, Dr. Fate is, what's it called? Not Dr. Fate. Naboo is controlling you.
Yeah.
Right? So,
anyway. he won't even like let you sacrifice yourself, right? If like you were to, if you like tried to do a self-sacrifice, he stops you.
They won't let you. And there's only been a couple people who've been able to outsmart him or be stronger in terms of will to kind of bypass that. But yeah, he just grabs you and you're a slave pretty much.
Interesting. Okay, guys, that was best favorite worst, impromptu, but a fun one. And now we're going into our last segment, final thoughts.
So easy.
I mean, once again, we're reviewing Saga by Brian K.Vaughan, art by Fiona Staples, Volume 1. Which is available now at your local comic book store. You should go pick one up if you are looking for an amazing read. We are already highly recommending it. Out of 5,
5.5.
5.5.
Okay. No, honestly, a series. I saw honestly, if I had to be really honest, I would give it a serious 5. I do think it merits it. I would say 4.75. Is only merited to the fact that I get creeped out by the stock and I get creeped out by the computer heads.
Oh yeah,
like those guys just weird me out. But other than that, seriously, there's when there's nothing to complain about a book, that makes it a 5 on 5.
Yeah. I think this might be my first perfect score, 5 on 5. I mean, all the things that I don't like about it are things that are more based on challenging me and making me uncomfortable, and they were written to make me uncomfortable, and I can see that. I can tell that's what they were trying to do, and I accept that, and I recognize that that's how good the writer is. Brian K.Vaughan does an excellent job at making you feel uneasy, and Fiona Staples can do the art to that, and they figured out how to do it, and me being uneasy is part of the story. Like, that's part of it. They want me to feel uneasy. And as for the rest of the writing, it's good. It's good. As someone who's read ahead quite a bit, it continues to be good. And I mean, it just, there are lull parts. There are volumes that I would probably give lower scores. But for a first introduction of storytelling and world building, 5 on 5.
I think this is my first perfect score too.
Oh, damn.
5 on 5.
Damn.
Yeah,
damn.
Around the house.
Everything is
rare.
I mean, I'm going to give 5s probably in the future for different things and different categories and different types of graphic novels or comic books. So in this sort of realm where I never had an interest,
agreed.
In this sort of, fantasy, sci-fi sort of graphic novel, the fact that it actually gripped me with so much emphasis, like it just grabbed me from the beginning. I was like, whoa, like, this is what a comic book should make you feel like when you read it, right? There's really nothing to complain about. The artwork is incredible, the writing even more so. But they both complement each other like none other that I've seen or read in a very long time. So that's definitely the reason why I'm giving it a 5. And aside from that, the story just keeps getting better.
Yeah.
Like Doc said, if you read ahead past the next few volumes, it just doesn't really stop or give. And then like the lulls that you mentioned are also just kind of the usual that you need in terms of kind of just giving fleshing out a deeper story for later.
Yeah.
So they're not really lulls, but you do get such a rush from everything that when that does happen, it does feel like a lull, even though it isn't.
Yeah.
So don't get fooled by that. It's still really worth reading.
Yeah, K.Vaughan did like set the bar so high with the first one. It's when I got to other things and I was just like, oh, okay. That I was like,
you were waiting for that rush again.
Yeah, you know, that drug addiction, like we were just joking about. It's just like, damn, give me another hit.
Yeah.
So,
because like the only real critique about this that you could tell anyone is just that you can't give it to like a young person.
Oh no, this is not for. This is an adult story. Like
that's the only
swearing and nudity right off the bat. Tells you that.
That's the only caveat. That's the only. I don't even want to say the word blemish because it's not even a blemish because it's known to it's basically over. It's publicized as an adult book.
Yeah, not everything is for every age.
Yeah, exactly.
It's perfect for its audience.
Yeah, there you go. So guys, that was it. That's Saga. Volume 1 collects issues 1 through 6. Brian K.Vaughan, Fiona Staples. Perfect score from all three of us. So we are highly recommending it. Go visit your local stores, check it out. And Dave, what do you want to tell the people? Squared-idea.com.
Just come visit us. We're an independent comic book company in Montreal, getting our feet wet. We have 2 books getting off the ground. Definitely by the time you hear this, we'll definitely have a hard copy of The Fathom out. We'll maybe even have a hard copy of Trinity, but again, I'm not sure when this will air. And, just support your local comic book independent artists. That's what Squared Idea was all based upon. It was based upon 2 guys coming up with an idea about books and then wanting to make those books and then realizing, hey, we should do this for other people. And if by chance you're not in Montreal and you're still looking for assistance, whether it's guidance on how to start the process or trying to connect with other artists, if you're an artist looking for a writer looking for an artist, that's why we have the internet. We've already started working with people who live outside of Montreal, live outside of Canada. We work with someone who's based right now in New York. So by all means, if you have an idea, bring it to the table.
Awesome. Tobi, that fit dude on Instagram.
That's right. And SoundCloud, abstract, AB-STRAQ. See y'all next issue.
There you go. That's it. That's all. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back in another edition very soon, another issue, as Tobi just said. And if you guys want to check out anything or everything, always visit us at franklinarmstrong.com. And that's it. We're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, all that stuff's on the website. And that's canon. We're out. Peace, everybody. Thank you so much.
Peace.